What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to give you a good overview of what to expect for this upcoming week. Some data points that might cause a little bit more fluctuations, and at the end I'll give you my price prediction where I see things going in the short term. So I'm going to go over all of that. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Without further ado, let's get right to it. So on Friday it did close flat, and as of right now, looking on the chart, it has been trying to transition from the lower to the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band. And on a positive note though, the S&P did close above the 50-day moving average. So on Friday, it did break past and transition to the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band, and also, like I said, broke above that 50-day moving average. So going into next week, it's very much optimistic. So Lucid and the market do have that going for it, but coming from an economic standpoint, the beginning part of the week is going to be, for the most part, pretty quiet. There's a couple Fed speakers that might be volatile because of that, but it's all going to start for data points on Thursday. So Thursday is GDP, and on Friday there is PCE. So there's those two things that could cause a little bit more fluctuation, but for the most part, it's just going to follow the good momentum that's happening on the market. So of course, I could be wrong. I'm not a financial advisor, but in Lucid's case, it's, like I said, been failing to get and going higher. And that's exactly what I've been saying. Around $8.20 is a very strong resistance point. And it did close right below that on Friday. So going into next week, if it doesn't break above that in the first 2 days, then most likely it is going to consolidate down. Because, for instance, even looking at stochastic, it went from very much oversold to kind of neutral. But if it does continue on the trend and once again fail to get into that higher percentile, then it's going to become very much overbought. Despite the deviation, so black line above the red, which in general is a little bit more of a bullish sentiment, number of retail investors for the most part are flat. There is no Lucid specific news that is coming out, so no SEC filings, recent ones, the last one being the definitive 14A, which was submitted on the 13th. But like I said, no actual news or anything like that recently. But Lucid did post this on Twitter, saying for people to tune into HBO Max on Sunday to catch a glimpse of Lucid Air in the final season of Succession. So in general, I think that's a pretty good thing, generally speaking. It's a nice change of events from just word of mouth being their only marketing. So I think in general, that may be a positive thing, whether people sign in just to see a 10-second glimpse of that, because I believe it is at the beginning, if I remember correctly, unless they've changed it. But unless I moved it right there. So a 5-second glimpse of that, but I think still that might be a positive thing. Would be absolutely epic if James Bond or someone else or another one of those big movie franchises actually takes Lucid. But of course, that's just my own interpretation, who isn't a financial advisor. When it comes down to Lucid, like I said, there isn't anything planned for this upcoming week. Of course, the Gravity could come out any moment based on the Q3 earnings. They did insinuate it's going to be within Q1, so that definitely does mean that it is going to be sometime this week they unveil the Gravity. So definitely could be something positive in that regard. Unfortunately, I've had my reservations with Lucid. I like the product 100%. I like the PIF owning majority stake of Lucid. Definitely that's going to be a positive thing. One thing I do not like, and I've been very vocal on it in the past, is their management. More specifically, Jeff Curry, who is the VP of communications and basically PR. Because for instance, if you ever look on Lucid's website under upcoming and previous events, you would note that it says January 28th, 2023. That is the last thing, and that's the Montreal studio opening. And I believe since then they've actually had 2 studios that's opened, one of which was a huge one, Norway and Oslo, I believe. And technically outside of that, they've participated in a couple PIF or Saudi related events. So in general, why are they not including anything? Like, did someone get laid off? Just not caring anymore? Like, it doesn't make sense. And to me, this comes off as sloppy. But of course, I could be very much wrong. So like I said, I like to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and things that Lucid could improve on. So I'm not really spreading any FUD. I just wanted to ideally want the best version of Lucid out there. And I think by them not updating all the events, I think this isn't a good image. But once again, that's just my thoughts on that. Going into next week, so you do see as far as a lot more shorts getting in. So I'll give you guys a quick update as far as what the current status of them and what they did on Friday. So short short score is currently 85, utilization is 100%. As far as what shorts did on Friday, they returned 1.41 million shares, but still there's 138.19 million shares being shorted, which works out to be $1.14 billion. So that's pretty significant. And 21.56% of the free float being shorted. Cost to borrow for the most part is going down, and that's at 16%. So generally speaking, as I've said many times in the past, if there is a good catalyst, then Lucid could very much squeeze, because on paper, it has everything needed for a good squeeze, which of course is a lot of shares being shorted, a good cost to borrow, and high utilization. The only thing that Lucid has really missed the mark on is a good catalyst. So of course, I think the gravity coming out this week, especially based on the price point, could be it. And as far as going into next week, there is a lot more optimism as far as options, with the exception of this right here, because this one was abnormal. But right now, this one alone is $1.78 million worth of puts. So someone behind the scenes is very much anticipating Lucid to go down based on next week. So April the 6th, it looks like $11 put. But in general, I could be wrong. Options don't necessarily move the stock price. It's just a little bit more of a sentiment. So going into next week, it's good to see that shorts are closing out their positions. And also as far as options activity, it's kind of good to see that there was a lot more call premium being purchased, but with the exception of this abnormal one right here. But again, that could be an institution, could be Citadel, could be a link to shorting. There could be a lot of different reasonings and justifications for that. One positive thing that I've noticed that has happened with Lucid versus not a lot of other growth stocks is institutional purchasing. So these are all the transactions on the secondary market. And as of Friday, it still goes to show that big money is getting into Lucid. And you can always tell based on what the transaction was, whether it be a buy or sell, based on the bid, the ask, and the selling price. So majority of these are very much buys. So like I said, it's been fairly constant as well, the number of transactions. So in general, I think that's a good sign. A lot of other growth stocks, for the most part, it is very noticeable that big money is taking a step back. So I'll give you guys a quick summary as far as dark pool transactions as well for Lucid. So in that regard, kind of the normal as well, but on Friday there was another one, $1.35 million. And that one was done after hours on Friday. So that one's a little bit more abnormal. But like I said, going into next week, it does need to break into this higher percentile either on Monday or Tuesday. If not, if it continues to fail and just pound at that, then it will be consolidating probably around to the 775 range, maybe 750 potentially, before it does trend up higher with a lot of the broader market momentum that's been and will happen as well. So in general, you still have to watch for these points, so 704 and $8.20 in the short term. And outside of that though, I just wanted to put it in perspective. There's an article that did come out a little while ago, so February, give or take, but buying Lucid stock could be like buying Tesla IPO in 2010. And the reason why I'm bringing this article up is I see a lot of bearishness that's been happening on StockTwits and various other places. And I just wanted to once again put it in perspective. The fact that even though Lucid is kind of volatile in the short term, they're still trying to find their niche. A lot of people are very hard on Lucid. And of course, me being one of them, as far as like, for instance, the events and so forth, because I think that stuff is very much controllable. But for the most part, Lucid is doing a lot of good, positive things. Given the market conditions with a higher interest rate, higher inflation, I feel like Lucid came into the game during a very difficult time period. So they're doing fairly well considering. And I think in general, I'm going to have a link to this in the description below as well. So I highly recommend you guys reading this. But once again, Lucid isn't doing that bad. So just put that in perspective. And especially we all know where Tesla is right now. So we know that there is a massive amount of demand for EVs. So that is going in Lucid's favor. And currently, despite Lucid being the new contender to the whole sector, they do already have a good competitive advantage over Tesla. So if you're going to compare Tesla and Apple from this point, then generally speaking, Lucid should do a lot better in the bigger picture. But as I always say, these videos are for entertainment purposes only. As far as where I see things going in the short term, I do anticipate with the broader market and positive GDP numbers coming out, we should be in this range right here. As far as enough to get higher than 950-ish, I don't see that happening. So most likely it'll be around the $9 range is where Lucid does settle. Of course, one caveat that could really change things is the gravity. If it does come out this week and the price point is very acceptable by the market standards, then you can easily see it breaking past the 950 range and maybe possibly testing 10. Of course, that might be a little bit more far-fetched at this stage, but again, I think there's a lot of optimism around the gravity. But once again, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far. One final thing I just wanted to share with you, with moomoo, there's an amazing promo. Only up until March 31st, open up an account, which is free to do so. You get one free stock. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. Link in the description below and also the comments. Make sure you guys take advantage of that. If you also want to throw $100 at it as well, there's a lot more good promos such as 4 free stocks and also 2 additional stocks, one of which is AI, the other one is BBAI. So just for $100, you get 7 free stocks. Kind of a no-brainer, but let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up, like I said. And without further ado, let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.